Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome. My name is Sean Lofton. I am the Artist Services Manager here at Northern Clay Center. I would like to thank all of you for joining us in person and online on this very rainy day for our spring McKnight Resident Artist Talks. Before we go any further, I would like to take a moment to pause and respectfully acknowledge that Northern Clay Center is located on Dakota land. Tonight, we are celebrating two McKnight ceramic artists in residence. This opportunity is awarded on an annual basis to provide 4 mid-career ceramic artists with support to continue their growth and professional development at Northern Clay Center, while also expanding our local clay community's appreciation for the medium and art. Additionally, our residents' work will be featured in a McKnight Artists exhibition that will begin at NCC and will travel to numerous sites across the state of Minnesota and into Western Wisconsin. Since 1997, Northern Clay Center has been a steward of these residency opportunities made possible by the McKnight Foundation. These grants enrich the lives and careers of both the recipients and our community through lectures, workshops, and exhibitions. Along with the connections established through the process, I would like to thank the McKnight Foundation for supporting these programs and for the incredible impact that they bring both to the ceramic arts and the greater arts community of Minnesota. Before introducing our first artist of the day, I would like to note that this presentation is being hosted on Zoom. For those of you connected virtually, please take a moment to mute your microphones and turn off your cameras, as this will be recorded and eventually reposted to NCC's YouTube channel. If you should lose your connection, please feel free to rejoin and we'll let you back in. If you have any questions, please feel free to enter them into the chat. We also have speakers connected, so when we enter the Q&A section, you should be able to unmute and talk directly to the artists in person. Now, I would like to introduce our 2023 Summer McKnight Artist in Resident, Joon Hee Kim and Ellen Kleckner. Joon's work explores the significant perception of existing as a human being while examining and reconciling the diverse identities and heritage of the world, seeking out compelling forces of beauty and desire. Joon is originally from South Korea, but now lives in Ontario, Canada, where she has been the recipient of numerous awards and honors. And Ellen is an artist and educator living in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Her artistic practice weaves together community engagement, material investigation, and collaboration. She studied ceramics at Appalachian Center for Craft for her BFA and Ohio University for her MFA. Ellen is the executive director of the Iowa Center Ceramics Center and Glass Studio, a nonprofit community arts center. Now, without any further ado, I would like to turn the floor over to Joon, who will begin tonight's presentation, and then we'll move on to Ellen's presentation.
Hello, everyone. Hello. My name is Joon Hee Kim, and firstly, I just want to mention about tonight. This is such a special night for me because I've always wanted to be here since I've started like ceramics. And then just tonight is my dreams come true. So just thank you very much for being here, at least my stories and narration about my works. So let me begin. So I was born and raised in Seoul, Korea. And this is me right before leaving Korea with my daughter. So before ceramics, I was a graphic designer and also the art director for like more than 10 years, do the like a 2D graphic design. But then like after we decide to move into the Canada, I think I really wanted to change my career because like moving into different countries, world, that means like you're gonna begin to think about changing your lifestyle or like make your dreams come true, something like that. So I've always wanted to study about like this pastry profession industries. So in Canada, I've decided to become a pastry chef and then attend Le Cordon Bleu in Ottawa, Canada, start about the pastry studies there. And then after studies, I've worked there for several times in there. But then one day I just had a school tour at Sheridan College in Oakville, Ontario. I've just changed another stories, but before that, I've learned some skills from the schools, and then thinking about like become a different profession and then life. So this is kind of like thing that I've learned from the school, and it's something new, and I just wanted to pursue more, but then I just found out that ceramic mold is out there. And then also I've seen like so many like similar things these two world has, because like the techniques that I'm building in the kitchen, and then like and then in the glaze kitchen, in the ceramic studio, they're like mostly like the same, like making things with a dry ingredient or batters, decorating with the glazes. You use fire, and then you use this oven to finish this thing. It's just a whole another level of something that I want to know more about it. So I went to the Sheridan College and then get to know about ceramics more. And then at the time, my inspiration was just the Western ceramic histories and backgrounds. And then at those time, Baroque and Rococo, all this like wonderful culture exchange was just so big to me. So I've studied and then learned about all these decorations and how this material porcelain moved into the world here and there. So that was my curiosity about like get to know more about ceramic and more. But after ceramic, no, after, I'm sorry, I'm so nervous. After Sheridan College, I thought I could learn more about it. And then there was a chance to apply Cecil Lewis sculptural scholarship from United Kingdom, UAL. So I received that sculpture scholarship from there, and then have a chance to go there and then finish my MA course. So this is my school. So this was my like graduation show, and then some of the final piece. It's a trophy shape, and I was so focusing about the human relationships and then struggles in those moments. So having these pieces playing with the forms and colors, and then made my portfolio to go to London, University of Art, London, Chelsea College of Art. And then there I learned about like, it's about destruction and like something formed that about like, that I wasn't so familiar with. So I've go back and scattered all these ideas and then start again, think about it. And at those times, there was a refugees and all these political matters going on all through the Europe. So I was kind of like want to express in those situations with my conditions. So think about like those human forms again. And also because it's like art school, I got to pick up another like tools and skills about learn about like disfigurations and the meanings of life and death, something like that. So I was thinking about a relationship with me and clay, and then to make another way to express that kind of thing. So with the clay, make original forms, but also carving a wax or making a mold and pour wax there to cast these things into the bronze. So I've just to learn like these kind of techniques to learn about like how to sculpt or how to construct the forms and express kind of like a condition that's going on these materials. So these are kind of things that I get from it, from the like studios and foundries. And then finally I had a chance to had a show at the Crypt Gallery in London 2016. It's really a graveyard gallery. So long time ago, people really put their coffins and deceived people in there. But now it changed into the gallery space, and half of them are church. So it was kind of weird space, but I've just placed my work here and there and have exhibit all these kind of experimental forms to exhibit, and then invite people to see those installations. And of course, I've made some porcelain and like dinner urn to think about like what's life, and then what's the relationship between life and death. So it's all about in these pieces. And then I finally had my graduation and summer show at the Chelsea College of Art. But right after this school, I'm thinking about because my original passion was ceramic, and then I want to go back and pick up more and learn more about it. So I would decide to go to like several residencies, try to apply here and there. So my first residency was a haystack. And then there I just heard about Northern Clay Center from professors and teachers there. And then, Jin, you should go to the Northern Clay Center to get some inspiration and then get to know more about ceramics. So since then, I have this dream and desires to be here as always. So it's only 2 weeks period, so I don't have much thing to do in there in ceramic, just the building and fires, but like I've just tried the things and then also think about like relationship between me and nature. So out there, just make some forms and then have this kind of like a series of work like that. And in Canada, like I have some experience about like craft biennale going on right after school. So these are just for the photos of like exhibited images, but some are like, because I have like a Korean heritage background, I got the motif from the Korean Joseon Dynasty Soladons. And then from that inspiration, I've created some works like that. Just want to celebrate the communities that I'm involved with, because I'm touching the clay and ceramics. I just have so many people get to meet in this community. So just want to celebrate those kind of things and then start to build those forms during the Biennale.
Are those glazes or what's the color material? Underglaze?
Yeah, under glazes, but also glazes. This is like lower temperature fires. So I can get this like bright colors. But also for the bright colors, I use like under glazes, also color glazes and decals and gold lusters. But yeah, they become a sets of like a splatter dishes, something like that, to commemorate those memories. And then after I just had a chance to have this fund from Canada Council for the Art. So I get to go to the Shigaraki, Japan residencies to get to know more about like my heritages and like Asian ceramics, something like that. So this is a Shigaraki residency in Japan. And I've stayed there for like 3 months. So Shigaraki is one of the 4 large kiln sites in Japan, and there I just get to learn about like how to build a big form, and then know about like how to construct this kind of big form, and then support inside, and those sort of like the techniques that I can learn from artists there, and also loading and unloading, and then moving these gigantic kilns. So the one that's like right after bisque fired, and then one before going to the glaze firing kiln, and then this is like glaze result right after.
You did all that in 3 months.
Yes.
And then what happened to the sculptures?
Oh, I'll show you later. But then one of the main reasons that I really wanted to go to Japan was I just want to know more about the heritage and my background as Korean. I've learned ceramic in Canada, so I had no idea about like Korean ceramic histories and anything, but uh, during their like learning and pick up some knowledges, I just found out that, you know, like Japanese porcelain, it was like really flourishing right after 14th centuries. And then it became a big hit through whole Europe. And then like people in Western like were like so amazed by its like form and colors and everything. But then I found out Korean was the pioneer and then founder of Japanese porcelain rock. And he was taken by the Japanese soldier during the Indian War, was Japanese main invasion in, I guess, 15 to 16, in between those centuries. So I found out that factor, and then just want to go check if that was really happened and he was there. But I kind of like found out, and this is his monument. And then the potter name was Lee Sang-pyong. So I just traveled to Saga area and then find out that all this like historical fact. And then it's kind of like a porcelain rock around the corner on the streets. And then that rock becomes like a porcelain. And then they made like this kind of like big history of porcelain has begun. And you can see there are so many like a graveyard right there for potters. It's unknown the potters, but also it says only on the left it says like only 888 unknown like potter graveyard there, but actually it was like had a stone of 880 unknown potters. So it's a Korean graveyard. So just to get to know about this background and heritages, and I just want to know and express those kind of inspiration from there. So I just use Japanese porcelain to commemorate like all these potters. So make another funeral urn from the porcelain and just to use like coins and things that I can get from the Japan land, and then yeah, I have this piece with it. And those big pieces, I just fired and finish it and have exhibition at the Shigaraki Sculptural Cultural Park out there, outside. So it was like installation like that.
A big high five.
Yeah.
How long did they stay out there?
It's been I guess 2 months, because I have another exhibition in Canada. I need to ship them back in Canada. Have an exhibition here at the Burlington Art Center. I have like a courtyard exhibition out there. So I have those urns and like a human forms and figurations out there. Place here to there. And then kind of like having exhibition with the people's community out there. We had like hot dog day or barbecue day in the courtyard, and then special like evening night, something like that. But also have a very special moment that we had a wedding day with all these pieces with, and it was really fun to be there at their special moment. And then like every summer, I have summer exhibition in Toronto outdoor show at the City Hall Square. So many artists just came out, get along, meet these people showing recent work. So like those urns that I brought from Japan and rock fired pieces, and then some of the pieces that I recently have just exhibit there, meet the people, something like that. So I've been doing this for like almost 7 in a row every summer in Toronto area. And then I had the honor to award winning about like best ceramics and then best craft and design award at the same time 1 year. So it was very meaningful for me too. And then like, because I had a very special courtyard exhibition, I've got to another chance to have this exhibitions. So it's about like eye of the beholder at the clay and glass gallery in Waterloo, Ontario. So just showing you many photos with me. But yeah, I just wanna show you more. And this is, I just wanna mention about it. So I'm so lucky to have this chance to go to residencies here and there. So like Haystack in Maine, Shigaraki, Japan, but also like other places too. Each time I go to the residencies, I met these wonderful people and have the inspiration from people. And then things that I can only get in those special times, I just gather all this information to make my totem piece. So as I have this experience and inspiration just together and then build as my life goes. So I call this series Build My Life. And then it goes to like Japan to Banff, Canada, something like that. But then this is how I make my piece. So the main piece and inspiration starts from the bottom, but then I just to make all different parts separately. I use press molds or other hand building form or even thrown forms just together, and then later I assembled them together, thinking about the balances and everything. And also I mentioned about the color. Before even Bisquire, I just to do some drizzles of colors to contour the pieces and decals to get layers of colors. So I have like these series of Build My Life going on. So yeah, this is keep going. And then I just take some individual out also, and then celebrate the individualism to find some characters and then invite people to see and meet them. I want them to recollect their memories and experiences, and then see themselves like a reflection. And then have like shop displayed chances showing my work there, and then practice about like installations and everything. And then Gardner Museum also invite me to do that. So these are like shop displayed, and then all this experience. So to me, because I know about like Japanese porcelain, and then think about this material very seriously attached with my heritages. But like during the COVID, I just couldn't work really hard because I couldn't go any studios, access something like that. And then try to apply funds or like any chances. So just to do some like paperwork, and then apply some like grants. And then I didn't realize that, but like one question was like, what color is your skin? Something like that. And then I was so surprised because I never thought about that item color. And then thinking about like these like porcelain and backgrounds, and then history fact, I never really think about it, but it doesn't really matter what color, who I am, but with this color, it gives you characters and all these meanings, and I have a chance to thinking about like your background. And I think it was very meaningful to think about my identities and heritages. So I've just building like a human form with these colors. So maybe it's before me just to using the black, no, white, like me. But then I add some colors, bring more characters. And then it just amazing experience to express individuals and also this culture connections. So this color gave me a chance to thinking about who I am and my identities. And then during the COVID, I just won a award about Winifred Shantz Award for ceramic in Canada, which was quite a big one for me. But through this process and time, I just feel like I'm kind of one of them from there. I'm not just a Korean or a stranger from like other land, but I've been excluded, and then I'm one of them. And then I have now a community who supports me and my work there. So from that moment was pretty special. And yeah, it was like to me, yes, you can go on journey. So from there, I just keep going and going without turning back or regret any. So in year 2022, I have a chance and had an invitation from Gardner Museum that had International Ceramic Art Fair there. So all these like international figurative making artists was there, and I was one of them, and then had a chance to show my work through there. So some of the work was exhibited, and then pretty sure that shows my heritages and identities. Also had a conference in Canada, so I was a guest speaker and then show demo to them, and then talking about my work there. So some of the form were like meant to be the like a West form combined with my heritage things. But I don't want to do a like melting pot, like putting everything in and then just to mix it. But it's more like mosaic. Some part it can show like things that I adopted from here, but also have my own identities from my work. So something like that. But year 2022, I also was a Archway summer resident, and there I just to try to build the biggest piece I ever had in my life. But it was those like very happy moment, putting everything on it. So I just want to documenting all these inspirations and the cultural exchange things into the form, and then showing people that we're all connected, and then have this emotion and human tapestries in one piece to think about like what's life and what's humanity about. And finally, I got some like work turned out from the kiln.
How tall are they?
They're like, um, they're, no, like to me, meter is like easier. So like
Yeah.
just taller than a meter. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And after that, like I was invited from Philadelphia, the clay studio exhibition. It was really big. They were kind of like prepare for the big show. So last year it was like a 70th anniversary between America and Korea. It's like a diplomatic relationships. And then it was like a big thing going on that cities. So I was one of 12 Korean artists who reside in North America. But I was the only one from Canada, so I've been prepared. This is Sheridan College that I'm working last year till last year, not this year, but yeah. So during the like class going on, I just to work my own to prepare the shows. So like make a main piece like that and then try to assemble and then have like a similar form that I built in Archway. So this thing can be prepared for the show Between Horizons in Philadelphia. So it was the main exhibition and the piece was there. And also we had a symposium during the shows. I was there presenting my work and then have my time to talking about my work there. And then, yeah, just going on and on, but I'll be quick. So, so last year, I had a chance to be a permanent collection into the Royal Botanical Gardens sculpture collection. It was really huge because it's a ceramic piece out there, outdoor, meeting people. It's quite like adventure. but yeah, it's good. And then also have another like outdoor things going on. It's a Burlington Waterfront Sculpture Trail, but my bronze piece was there to meet people there. So it's more like visual art section, but have a show here and there in Canada right now. And then these are like a recent form. And just want to show you more about like my recent solo show in Santa Fe. And this is like how I build and prepare for the firings, and then the final result. I'm talking about like people and relationship between, and it's all about like celebrating the communities that I'm in, but also the individual, very special individual. I just want to celebrate taking out from those big form, and then just saying that each one of us is very special. And I just want to celebrate those kind of identities too. So this is like my home-based studio, working on colors and everything. And then one of the pieces, something like that. And then images from the Santa Fe solo show. And these pieces just included Tia collection recently, so I was very honorable for that. And then yeah, that was it. So yeah, I think that was it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we have
Yeah.
plenty of time now to open it up for questions. I'm
Uh-huh.
just going to make a little tech adjustment so that our online folks are able to, sorry, let me get my mouse working. We'll be able to ask questions as
Mhm.
well. So let's go ahead and open the floor up to questions. So yeah, if anyone in our in-house audience has any questions.
Do you still do cake pastry?
Yes,
work?
yes.
And you still feel that connection?
Yes. And people, after knowing my background, they said, now I understand why you're doing that. But like mostly, when people have a special occasion, like wedding cake or like cake for the first baby's birthday, something like that. Yeah, it's more like for photos and yeah, showing people something. Yeah, I'd love to do that some.
Are you using more color on the cakes, like
Ah.
similar to the ceramics?
Not really, I don't really like putting like too much color on the cake or cream, because I don't feel like it's like,
Edible?
yeah, healthy.
Hmm.
Oh, yes.
In one of the slides, it looked, I haven't used decals very much, and so I'm curious. It looked like you were putting a decal on some greenware.
Yes,
Did I see that right?
yeah,
Oh, really? And you can seal it down smooth enough?
Uh-huh.
Don't get pockets?
yeah.
So is it like leather hard, so it's soft enough that you can rub it in, or?
Yes, leather hard will be the perfect time for me to rubbing in and.
Yeah. Huh.
If you made a mistake, it's still a chance to fix it, like scraping out and then,
Oh.
yeah, just add more color on top of it.
So do you make decals or do you just buy them?
Both,
Oh, really?
actually, yeah.
So do you have like a decal printer?
I don't have a printer, but like for making, I just drew on the like newsprint or newspaper.
Yeah.
But everything was like backwards, so I do like background first, and then the line, and then color behind. So it's like a layer.
Yeah.
So that you can put it on, then it goes backward.
And you have high fire decal, they just low fire.
I think using blue, black just go well with the high fire too.
Okay.
Yeah, they're there. Yeah.
Something, this is more of an observation. That struck me, I noticed the eyes, all the eyelids, very Asian,
You think so?
very,
Oh,
very consistent,
very easy.
very
But-
consistent, now, like epicatic folds.
Mhm.
Oh,
Some people say, June, that doesn't look like you or Asian. And some people say that, June, this is someone that I know, like I didn't mention, but I mean, I didn't mean it, but like people try to find the familiar faces
Sure,
through the pieces. So, oh, this is someone that I know, or is that you, June, and your daughter, something like that. So I kind of like that reaction when people have it.
Sorry, Marty, do you want to go?
I already went.
Oh, well, I was just curious because like it's interesting to see your work from grad school and then to see like, there was with the cast iron, there was more seriousness. It seemed like, we're in dealing with life and death, those ideas.
Uh-huh.
And then, it seems like the work took more of a playful turn to more of this character driven sort of
Mhm.
almost like it feels like a stream of consciousness, sort of like narrative storytelling. And I mean, are you still sort of thinking about like those heavier ideas of life and death, or are these more just like visual diaries now? I'm just curious because
So from the beginning, I didn't really do much sketch, just having an idea and then try to make it real. But these days, before making these pieces, I drew and do some illustration first. So I think the images that I'm having right now, it's because of the drawings. It's more like sometimes it looks more like a casual cartoony
Mhm.
things. But I think it's kind of like a good tool that I can invite like people easily so
Yeah.
they can like point out and then don't get too serious about.
Yeah, they're more like
stepping to
inviting.
the-
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say that too, that in the more recent ones that he showed us, there was more of an attraction, joyful
Joyful,
and
yes.
humorous, perhaps.
Camaraderie.
Yeah, when you're putting people together like that,
Mhm,
especially at the end, like that.
mhm.
What does the horse mean to you when you?
When I do so horse is kind of in Western, it's more like traditional and war, something like very, like uh, big, moment in the history, something like
Yeah.
that. But to me, horse in Korea, it says 말, and
Oh.
말 is language speak. So
Oh.
I just wanna express like my situation that I'm kind of like lacking a language in this land. So I was hoping that using those symbols
Mm.
to express myself freely and easily. So it was like the double meaning inside.
I missed what you said about the horse in Korea is what?
Language and
The
words.
name
Yeah.
in Korea has another meaning, I believe.
Mhm. So chose that as a symbol.
Nice.
We had a question from our online group. Clarice said, "That was so wonderful. Thank you, June. Your work has such an immersive aspect. Can you speak a little on the importance of scale in your work? How you work to maintain the identity of the elements, but how do you maintain the overall complete wholeness of the piece? So I think maybe how important is scale, and then how do you bring all those elements together?"
So I didn't know about the scale really much. I just to satisfied when I finished my work. But then when I had a chance to have this big work right after like visiting these special facilities and residencies, if I didn't get that chance, maybe I'll never had like making a big piece, something like that. But like happened it, and then I saw people's like reactions about it. It's when it's getting bigger, maybe how they see the piece differently, or like, yeah. So I see that kind of reaction and then get to know more about it and then start to build bigger.
Do you think it's because the faces in the sculpture are closer to human size?
Mhm.
That they can see it
Yeah,
themselves?
yeah. And then sometimes I just omit some part, like I'll get rid of the like mouse part, something like that, and then people get more imagination about like what's underneath or what's behind. Yeah, so what's the backside of the part, and then just adding more imaginations and yeah.
Well, I watched your video
Uh-huh,
and you have a hand that you're moving in all these different
uh-huh.
places before you decide where you're attaching it. Is that part of your process?
Yes.
The faces too, where
Mhm.
you test them around and then.
Mhm. Also, I think the hands is another kind of like a body languages.
Yeah.
So maybe without body languages, we can, like, even without mouths, we can still speak out through
Yeah.
like, yeah, eyes and all these like emotions from the faces. But when you have like hands or bodies, then you can add more
Yeah.
meaning onto it, and then the communication and like the things that people try to be connected with others. I thought it's very key point too, so like adding more gestures and expressions onto the piece.
Well, I was grateful to see that video and to see the impact of placing the hand in so many different ways before you decided. It was amazing to me how it changed the expression and
So during the residencies, it was in Germany. Like one of the artists just came to me and then says, June, like this.
oh,
And then I thought in Korea, it's kind of like insulting.
oh,
But she said this, and then I didn't know what that is, but later I just found out that it's like good luck, wishing
Oh.
luck. So I was so happy to find out like those kind of hand languages and everything. And then also it could be communication, but also misunderstanding between
Right.
people too. So
Yeah.
yeah, start to using those symbols too.
What kind of art did you do as a child?
Always craft. Yeah,
Which one?
craft.
what does your daughter think of all of your trips and all of your awards and accomplishments?
Mhm.
She must be deeply affected.
Yes, she is one of the greater supporter. Always, mom, you can do it, and try to be brave. It's not about language, but your visual language is always wonderful. So I just keep that in my mind, thinking about it. But without their support, my family support, I would be here like going anywhere, but just, yeah.
Is she becoming an artist, do you think?
No, but yeah, she also really good at like making things and express herself through these materials.
Did want to open up an opportunity too. If anyone in the chat has any questions, feel free to unmute. We should be able to hear you on our end too. We have about 5 more minutes for questions if anyone's interested, and we'll move into the next presentation after that.
Well, I did have another question. Sometimes you had blue drips coming out from the eyes, and I didn't know if that was a symbol of crying, intentional, or if it was just random.
Red, yeah. I just do some splatters before doing any glazes, and then like using some blue and black to do some like the watercolory things before putting any colors, so that it gives you the ideas of like the shape of contouring whole things, and then the way the direction the drip goes down, and then I just figure it out how to like a color and where the colors. Yeah.
I love the splatters and the drips
Mhm.
and the intense combination of colors.
Are there any questions at all from our Zoom participants?
I've got a question. This is Pam.
We
Hi,
can-
June.
Hi.
Say, I'm just curious, have you hit any restaurants, or that you have any in your sights that you want to hit while you're here?
I just heard about so many. So I don't know.
She's not sure which one.
Yeah, which
Can you hear
one?
us okay, Pam?
Yeah, I didn't hear the answer, no.
Yeah. I'm not so sure about it. But
Do you have any recommendations?
yeah, do you have any recommendation?
Well, I gave you some literature, so I think that might help out.
Thank you.
But I don't know. I mean, we've got quite a few restaurants, so I mean, from the Asian point of view, but from many others. So I was just wondering if there was anything that you were kind of had your sights on.
I think she's gonna think about
Yeah.
it.
Okay, I'll let you off the hook.
We truly appreciate it. All right, everybody. I'm really excited to introduce Ellen Kleckner, our second McKnight artist, joining us for the spring. Ellen, please feel free to take everything away, and we will open up the end of yours as well for Q&A. I'm going to turn off our speaker for everyone on Zoom for the time being. And then once we enter that Q&A session again, I'll put that back on so we can hear you.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Like Sean's introduction, I'll let you know. I'm Ellen Kleckner. So I'm an artist and educator. I live in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, which is about 4 hours south of here. I work full-time as executive director of the Iowa Strength Center and Glass Studio, which is a community arts nonprofit studio. We have about 100 members, so similar to Northern Clay, but on a much smaller scale. And I just want to make sure I give a huge thank you to the staff and community of NCC, especially Audra and Sean, for welcoming Joon and I, and this opportunity provided by the McKnight Foundation to work here for 3 months is, like Joon said, truly a dream come true to be able to have the time and space and community to create in. I feel very lucky. And I also think there's something very magical that happened to allow Joon and I to align our times at the same time. So I'm really grateful to be able to have her kind of as a partner in this and as a feedback loop. So tonight, let me get my, is it just the arrow, Sean? No, it's okay. I can click through.
Yeah, you can, once you click one, you should be able to arrow through.
Okay. So for tonight's presentation, I'm gonna first give a little bit more of a formal presentation about my work and kind of my most recent body of working a little bit more in depth about my practice and process. And then since a lot of us here are makers, I thought I would really take the time to share some of my influences and kind of some of the future thoughts I have, especially what I'm going to be kind of thinking through and working through while I'm here at NCC. I am a visual artist, and I would say that words can be challenging for me to communicate directly and articulate. Part of my time at Northern Clay, I am going to try to spend a little bit of time doing some investigation of writing. I feel as an artist, I don't know if you guys ever feel this way, but I'm just now kind of able to understand some work that I've made, some of my older work, starting to have a little bit more clarity about my whys, and the ability to articulate them is kind of something that I really feel is a something that I'm wanting maybe in this kind of we're gonna use air quotes, mid-career stage that I'm wanting to really explore more and be able to figure out the points in which I feel comfortable talking about my whys and my process, and some of the stuff just understanding myself better. So that's a little bit more about who I am. So just a little bit about me. I did not click through. Okay, so I was raised in Southern California, but I began my ceramics education in the craft schools of Appalachia after living for the majority of my 20s in New York City, where I went to Hunter College and studied anthropology. I went to the John C. Campbell Folk School, Arrowmont, Penland, all kind of in that Western North Carolina, Eastern Tennessee area. And the Appalachian Center for Craft is about an hour east of Nashville. And I was able to spend 2 years there working on my BFA. Then I did a postdoc at Nebraska and completed my MFA in 2016 at Ohio University. So there are 4 pillars that are the foundation of my practice as an artist, in which I see. I see it as community development, collaborative work, studio practice, and material investigation. For me, it's at the center point of where all 4 of these things meet that I thrive as an artist, where I can find my balance as well as my growth. So for me, I find it intriguing that as complex as our world has become, there's still a really strong desire for connection, which I believe is the greatest of the human needs. For me, the physical joinery that I utilize within my work reflects person-to-person relationships that I treasure. So I join clay to wood through dovetail joints in this piece, Open Juncture. For me, these joints become a metaphor of the intimate connections that I seek in personal relationships. I'm deeply invested into these relationships. They nourish me creatively, emotionally, spiritually. And I continue to cultivate creative communities around me, which allow for this growth. This piece, Open Embrace Juncture, is brass, walnut, and ceramics, and it stands about 3 feet tall. My work articulates the importance of joining with others. And it is through physical manifestation, through the physical joinery, that I create work within my collaborative partnerships. This piece is Open Union. The oak was, I carved with a chainsaw. It took me about a week to get the joint. And the image was created in 2018. It's through the convergence of materials that I seek to understand connections. So for me, those connections are place, materiality, ideas, legacy, as well as community. My work utilizes the visual language as well as mechanical vocabulary of makers and craftspeople, both historical as well as contemporary. I bring the historical into the contemporary through making these new forms. By the creation of these new forms, I believe that I am making something that is familiar, yet intriguing and new. The physicality of material is critical in my work. I join parts of all kinds together to create complex new forms that provoke the question of utility within something that is recognizable. In Juncture 2, Open, the porcelain butterfly joint holds together the splayed branch on a copper mount. So the span of this is about 30 inches wide. And I'll get to it later, but it is all tension fit. So I do not use adhesions in my work or glues. So there is, if you're, I'll have an image later of this, but the wood has been chiseled to be able to inset that porcelain butterfly joint to hold it all together. So you can see how it's inset into the wood there. The systems of joinery, they serve as a way for me to explore the binary between material and concept. I use sometimes unlikely combinations of media, such as ceramic or reed, wood and steel, and they actively help illustrate connections between materials as well as concepts. They often are familiar forms and familiar joints, but with alternative materials. In form juncture, I worked with a metal artist, Mike Sneller, who lives in Cedar Rapids, to create a dovetail joint of wood and steel. I carved the 3-foot hand-hewed poplar log that I had actually been carrying around with me since for about 5 years from graduate school. And I use it as a plinth. I definitely have the idea of a collector of parts is entirely who I am. Work materials can often get utilized in different ways and reused and brought new life. So I had actually carved this block. The wood itself stands about 3 feet tall. And it took me close to a year in my studio to figure out kind of how I wanted to join it. The initial concept was felt, and then kind of through conversations and a lot of contemplation, I was able to come up with this design. The steel it's fit like a puzzle, so it slides on and off. And the component, it was through a lot of conversations and material expertise and the feedback from Mike that I was able to conceptualize this piece. It was also through the support of the Iowa Arts Council. A grant that I received allowed me to employ the material expertise of another craftsman to help manifest things on larger scale. So form juncture stands 5 feet 11 inches, and it fits together just like a puzzle piece. My rockers are a direct labor of a personal intention to create a lasting voice. To me, they speak of generosity, receptivity, comfort. It says in the rhythm of making them that echoes the rocker form itself. It's the turning of the wheel, the bending of the wood, as well as the motion of the surface. Once grounded, my rockers repeat their intentions through movement to comfort and contain. By creating this new form, I'm exploring concepts of maternity, as well as a collective care that is required to create something new. We'll come back to these many times in this presentation. So in my piece, Juncture 1, Embrace, I joined the familiar craft materials of basket reed and clay to create a new enclosed form. This piece, like my other work, is joined with only tension. I do not use adhesive. I don't use glue. No glue or adhesive in my work. This allows for materials to be separated in the future without compromise. This is a key concept in my work, the idea of tension fit. Each of my pairings of materials becomes a balance between a two-part system. Materials become interdependent while maintaining individual integrity. It's a moment of this balance that my visual narrative depicts the need for a mutual reliance on material in order to create new forms. I approach collaboration in the same way with the same concepts that is seen in the physicality of my work. A mutual reliance of independent makers to create something new. I employ play and exploration that is paired with traditional craft practice to create in collaboration with a community of makers. So you'll see many, Miranda is a metalsmith. She's down on the right side, and Linda Tiam, my primary collaborator partner, is up on the right side. And so many different techniques, processes goes into my overall work, as well as relationships with other people. So I'm part of a long-standing collaboration with artist Linda Tien titled The Implement Archive. Linda is an incredible artist in her own right. She runs the Grunwald Gallery at University of Indiana Bloomington, and she received her MFA in 2016 from University of Indiana Bloomington in metalsmith. And I'll talk a little bit more about our collaboration moving forward. So for the better part of a decade, we have investigated, which is commonplace, through the exploration and alterations of functional forms. Later in this collaboration, I'll explore a little bit my beliefs behind the idea of holistic collaboration from my experience. So these are parts of the Implement Archive. Our collaboration is woven together within each of our individual studio practices, and I will interchangeably use the word I and we throughout this, as it is truly an exploration of being able to understand self as well as ego through this process of working with another individual so intimately. Working in creative partnership has allowed me to re-envision and consider what the idea of personal practice is. It's also augmented my idea of conceptual growth. I've been able to apply the skills I've learned through these partnerships and my collaboration as a new mindset and how I look at collaborating in my own studio with material as well. This image is from an installation of the Implement Archive at Aramont School of Craft. For me, I believe that there is a strong future in ceramics for interdisciplinary forms of creativity to come into play. I think the integration of new materials into ceramics in itself sparks greater conversation with our community and how we approach the medium of clay. All right, so going back to kind of what I consider my 4 pillars of an artist is for about 8 years now, I've worked at the Iowa Ceramic Center as the executive director. It's only really been in the past probably 2 years that I've been able to understand and recognize how this role has become part of my creative practice as an individual artist. So the center is located in a historic 100-year-old factory building, and we occupy about 12,000 square feet with 100 different community members. We run on a small staff with lots of volunteers and an incredible group of resident artists. It is through this work, organizing workshops, conferences, classes, that it's allowed me to keep learning and creating in new ways. I've even learned a little bit about fused glass. But this has also allowed me to understand project management, how to scale up ideas, how to engage with other makers into larger ideas beyond what I can facilitate myself. So that's where I say the integration between kind of this full-time work as arts administrator has really helped and informed my creative practice. And it's allowed me to understand really how to collaborate. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to talk about one of my other pillars. So collaboration. So once again, I just think it's really important for me to recognize my main collaborator, Linda Tien, and let you guys know a little bit more about a collaboration and how it functions. I'm also an educator, and ultimately, I do hope to have a little bit of a conversation about collaboration and hope that it can be something that you would consider incorporating into your own practice. I think you can view collaboration through materiality, through time, through history. It doesn't just have to be with another individual. But it's a way that it's something that's helped keep engaging me in my studio and within my own practice. So the Implement Archive is as much about documentation as it is about the objects we create. So there is the Implement Archive. It's there's a website as well as an Instagram where we show process. I have a background as an administrator. Linda has a background as a curator. So everything is numbered and cataloged by year and maker. We currently have over 400 objects. They're all available to be seen. But also the process of documentation has allowed us to kind of release them being considered stagnant objects. They've been documented, then they go back into the archive and they can be continually altered at any point. So the ability to document has actually kind of freed me up to consider continuing to work on a piece and continuing to altering a piece. So Linda and I we both consider Implement Archive as part of our individual creative practices. I will often show objects from the collaboration in my own solo exhibitions and vice versa for herself. I have been one to do a full installation, or she's been one to put it into a full installation as well. So it's a very fluid practice. It is something that I think collaborative time is really important to think about. So overall, what's been critical for this collaboration is that we don't physically live in the same place. Linda lives in Bloomington and has a full-time job and family. I live in Iowa with a full-time job as well. And so having very full lives, we've approached this collaboration with an unrestricted approach to time. So the collaboration is sustainable because it's long-term and it's infinite. We work in microbursts of productivity through schedule time individually, but the nature of the collaboration in itself, which helps keep it moving forward, is that it's an unstructured set of time, but it allows us both to weave it into our personal lives, our personal practice, and it allows us some breathing room for each other. We have rules that change constantly, and that's been built up over years of being able to have communication with each other. So the communication within the collaboration is the synergy. It's the verbal conversation that drives momentum of the collaboration. And like many collaborations, there are parts that come together to form new parts. So the physicality of this is supposed to be a video, but okay. It's the physicality of the process of us bringing these parts together that is in itself a conversation. We try to find the best fit for parts through problem solvings. We figure out techniques of how to form new connections between these parts. It's through conversation that we build synergy. It becomes a feedback loop as well as a way to improv in art making. We try to say yes as much as possible and to say yes and. So communication is critical within our process. As you can see, it's something that we do through text, through phone calls, as well as through email. So this is where we say it's a asynchronistic time frame. We're not working on it at the same time in the same place, but rather it's a fluid conversation through the collaboration. So it's through written as well as visual communication that we work. So I'm going to get a little bit of an educator on you guys right now and talk just a little bit about collaboration and what I've learned over the past decade. There's the types of collaboration that I see as starting points are mashups, setups, project-based, or commission. I think now after a decade of working with Linda, I see the equitable experience of collaboration that we have now as a transformative and holistic approach, as well as interpersonal. So it really has become my viewpoint on the world and my viewpoint on my practice. I'm happy to talk more with anybody about these later, but I can give a whole nother presentation on this fact. So I do think there's a couple of key traits to collaboration that you need to consider. Trust, communication, play, improvisation, a structure, as well as dissidence. All are key factors to creating a successful collaboration. To me, I do want to make a point that I think there's a difference between cooperation and collaboration. They can, they're different from each other, but they often overlap. I think that I overall seek to kind of communicate to people that true ethical collaboration has to be something that's shared and is really something generated entirely new out of the grouping between two people, rather than necessarily just saying additional labor or help added to. So it's through the collaboration that I've had with Linda over the past decade that I've been able to kind of understand how to successfully collaborate and how it best works for me. So this is one of my other collaborators, John Schwarzkopf. He has a wood shop in the Cherry Building where I have my ceramics studio. And he's a wonderful furniture maker and wood maker, and it's through a lot of time and conversation that I'm learning that I learned how to create these rockers, and he's a wonderful at bending wood, that we've been able to kind of develop these rockers. And now I'd say we're truly in a state of kind of interdependent collaboration. I am currently working on mechanizing these rockers. So I received a grant just last month to try to make them autonomously rock on their own. The first generation is now on view at the Waterloo Center for the Arts down in Iowa. And if you look really closely at, there's a base that I built, and then there's a solenoid right underneath kind of the middle. It's to the left of the middle, and it will poke up through the base and then it will come down. So to me, going back to my role as an arts administrator, as a collaborative artist, there's been probably 7 different people that I've sought advice through of how to make this work, because I have no idea about small motors. So just kind of by talking and asking and intriguing, like, how do you make an Arduino work? What's this thing? I don't really even think this is the best solution, but it's the first solution. And even since being here and talking with people about it, I've had a couple of really great suggestions come up through it, including how do you power it? How do you battery it? And I think the biggest thing that collaboration has taught me is how to be vulnerable as an artist, how to ask for help, how to accept help, and also how to know what you want and seek. So not just, you don't have to take all the advice that you get, but definitely how to listen. So I'm going to talk a little bit now about my process in research development. So currently the majority of my surfaces are milk paint, which I'm happy to talk more with people about, which is actually, it's applied after firing, but that comes from a long time of seeking how to find the surface. So the reference photo on the top is a historical dough bowl, and it has that worn milk paint. And then when I was doing soda firing and trying to seek that surface design elements to it, so these are some forms from there, some inspiration pieces. So reference image on the top, on the bottom is cone 6. So going back, kind of that back loop, now I'm just actually using the milk paint itself. Tangible research to me is extremely important. I find the ability to go look beyond your eyes and actually look and discover with your hands critical. Being able to see in the 3 dimensions rather than just the flatness of a 2-dimensional image on a screen is very important. I'm constantly looking through historical sites, museums, stores, observing how things are both displayed and also how they are out and about. And this feeds me creatively. So these are some key images for me. So shaker bowls, hand-hewn bowls. I think also about presentation of objects. So if you're looking on the left, this is from the Shaker Museum in New Lebanon, New York, and they're displayed kind of as use, how you would see them. But then they were put in exhibition at MoMA and taken out of context of their area of display and really observed for just design. So the presentation of the object can dramatically change the perception as well as the value of it. And this is something that when I'm thinking about gallery installation, always really comes back in mind to me. I also want to talk about discovery. I think discovery is critical. As we can kind of, algorithms can narrow our ability to discover new. So to me, going to places, wandering around and allowing yourself to bump into things is critically important. And so this is visual storage at the V&A. And this has really become a critical part and influence of how I label my objects, not trying to tie direct usage to them. So using things like a number coding system or basic terms, and not necessarily saying spoon if it looks like a spoon, but rather implement. It's become a kind of a critical thought process to me. Discovering objects like being able to hold them. This is a English ceramic bracelet, but looking at the joints and the metalwork from the bottom, from the back, from the upside down is a huge way. So I refer to this as a tangible understanding versus just the two-dimensional digital image. So for me, this path of discovery has led to some very critical pieces. This is a death cradle that I discovered during a research trip to the Shaker village in New Lebanon. And it's an adult-sized cradle. So it's sort of, this would be in the infirmary. Think of it as something that you would have for hospice. For the past 10 years, this has been in my mind. It's been critically influential. And it was something that I didn't know I was looking for. I'm sure we can all have those objects. And I think as artists, it's critical that we maintain the ability to allow ourselves to discover, rather than just getting into a narrow algorithm that allows us to see the same thing over and over again in very small skewed. So this is the first iteration of the rocker that I made in 2016. And also this was the influence for me to abandon the foot. So you'll notice that none of my work, I've really kind of abandoned the foot and ungrounded my vessels. And I'll show some more images of that in just a bit. But you never really know what's going to be of influence for you. So this is just 2 large pieces of plywood. The bowl's about 20 inches across, and then there's 2 large slats. So it's a really, really basic mechanical connection. The ceramic bowl is just resting on top of those pieces of plywood, and there's a little bit of a splay to them so that their tension fit in there. And it actually rocks pretty nicely. So for me, I also, investigation of form is something that has led me very places. So I got to go back into the permanent collection of the Shaker Museum, and I just fell in love with these forms. No idea what they were. Does anybody know what they are by chance?
I don't know.
They're basket molds.
Oh.
So it's the interior volume of what a basket is. So to me, conceptually, I just love these, but you would weave a basket around them in order to get the basket form. And then, so you weave the basket around it and then you pull the basket out. So it was just by the discovery of these forms that has really, it was these things that led me into basket weaving, just because they're absolutely beautiful objects. So wanting to know more about how these work and discovering them, I took a class at the folk school, and from a really traditional shaker basket maker, I took a week-long course to really know how to understand how these forms were used in a contemporary sense. And so you can see the large just solid wooden form. And then you weave, it's woven around it. I'm very simplifying this process. And then it becomes very refined and finished. In the back there, you'll see that the finished piece. So that led me being able to understand how the things are made originally, then leads me to the thought and intrigue of how I'm going to be able to transform this traditional way of making into my version in contemporary form. So understanding the weaving pattern, this is split ash, which is what these baskets were made of. So this is a cast porcelain, carved cast porcelain, and then there's a channel in there. And I was able to kind of understand the material, and then from that, taking what I learned, and then being able to create a final form for it. And so it's the understanding and then the ability to go back and plan, understand how big that porcelain bowl needed to be, along to match the bent wood rim, and then the integration. So I just want to emphasize once again, there is no glue. I am very, the tension fit is something that 100% becomes really critically important to me on a conceptual nature. So these are some of my early baskets, clay baskets, were I think pretty traditional in that and rigid in the top, bottom, and how I kind of approached them. So some other things for me. So I'll in the same way that through Implement Archive, I approach objects and blocks and parts and then figure out how to form them together. That will be me. I'll kind of work in a spurt in the studio in ceramic, which I'm doing right now. And then I'll be thinking about the setup and the ability to like have spaces, holes, drill is my favorite tool. Have kind of the setup for how I'm going to join things, but I don't know the exact pattern, but I know that I'm going to kind of be starting to join things together. So this is me kind of in the wood shop trying to explore how things come together, getting them set up. And then, so this is a piece, that's a pipe clamp that's keeping its tension together. And then it's just cut plywood for the transition of the two forms into one new form. So to me, what I see is the familiarity of all of those forms together, but I'm trying to really transcend to bring all of the familiar objects and forms that we know into a new form. So this is a piece of pine, and this is actually the other side of that bowl. See, and then there's a groove, a channel that's been carved into that block. And then it's just fit in there with tension. So the ability also working, I acknowledge that the tension fit would not work between pieces of ceramic very well, but the ability to work with a softer material that allows for that flexibility as wood. So although I don't know exactly how I'm going to be fitting, I know I utilize these basic techniques that I know of joinery to kind of create this setup for the ceramic. So for me, the dovetail is a huge thing that you will see repeated in my work. And it's also a signifier. We think of good craft, good, if you've ever opened up a drawer, a lot of people will say, well, the dovetail is the ultimate joint, the ultimate symbol of good craftsmanship. It's interesting that a lot of furniture nowadays too, you'll even see it printed rather than actually being a dovetail. I mean, we could get into a whole dissertation on the dovetail, but we won't. So for me, it's become a signifier of craft, and that's really how I kind of got into the idea of these joinery, but these systems of joinery with the lap joints, mortise tendon, all these different ways that we kind of fit together. Timber framing is no glue either. You have these beautiful, giant, large structures that are created with tension. And so this is a lot of what I'm visually looking at within my work. So this is a bowl. It's think it's about 18 tall by 12 wide. Those, and then that's walnut. So this is how I'm fitting the walnut to the bowl. So you'll see it repeated, that dovetail over again in my work.
So that was a cardboard.
The cardboard is a template.
Yeah.
It's just, this is just part of, I just thought show kind of part of the process, but it's the template, but because the bowl in itself is it's a compound curve.
Mm.
So it's not just a cut out of like that large steel wood dovetail that I made is a pretty simplified puzzle piece. But working with the shape of the bowl, it's a compound curve. So the angle is going to be different on the inside than it is on the outside. So each piece gets a basic cut on a bandsaw, and then each piece is individually addressed through hand chisels to be able to get a fit. And this goes back into the idea of I do not have feet. My pots are not grounded. The rims tend to be very strong and bold. They're not fit. So on the left, that's another, that's a pretty simple dovetail joint, the handle. That's a walnut handle onto it. And that's a straight sided, so that's an easier fit. But you'll see that dovetail to me is a repetition over and over again. And so, yeah. Okay. So I definitely have, these are my 2 Instagrams and the ability to kind of look and see. I definitely use Instagram as my most current portfolio of what's being shown right now. And so that's who I am. So, all right. Thank you all very much. We're open for
definitely.
conversations if you guys have any.
Yeah, that's exact same time. It's 20 minutes for questions. Perfect.
A few moments for questions.
I mean, I think kind of the most interesting thing to me is you talking so much about tension fits and kind of working with like the natural properties of joinery, but I think there's something really fascinating that happens too, kind of just with the material relationship with clay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, you think about the material as a thing that is so weak under tension, but so strong under compression.
Of clay.
Yeah, and I think there's something really fascinating about that sort of just like relationship where you're using this sort of a joint that relies on tension to work correctly, but it's sort of like in defiance of like the natural material of clay, but there's sort of like a unique harmony that happens.
Yeah.
And there's, I don't know, there's like something poetic about that kind of material relationship that's really interesting, and sort of like there's like, I don't know, maybe reciprocity. I don't know what the word is exactly, but I think there's something really fascinating about that. I think that is, hearing you talk about it, I don't think I realized it in looking at it, but then hearing you talk, I think it's just, it's kind of a fascinating, like weird material relationship that I hadn't, not even weird, I guess more. It's
definitely, it's something that is not, it's not supposed to work.
Yeah.
It could even, I think because, kind of my background of craft, the balance for me does need to be important with the visual. So there's something to me that there's a unification in the design.
Yeah.
That really makes it more harmonious rather than dissident.
Yeah, I think it like it really like nicely dovetails into like that idea of synergy that you were talking about too.
Yeah.
Like I think there's something neat about that,
Within
you know,
them.
like the separate parts being able to be used in like a really harmonious way. And I don't know,
Yeah.
that was cool. Yeah.
And I think that for me in my time, kind of over the next couple months here, is like I'm trying to figure out like where do those breakdowns happen? Like I've been so tight. And to me, the craft is very important, and but I know I can do it. So I'm trying to figure out kind of like where is the joint compromised?
Yeah.
Is it in the form? Is it in the materials used? So that's sort of my exploration in the studio right now.
I'm in awe of where you are with your art and the materials.
Uh-huh.
And
Thank
that's not even talking about relationship like you did throughout. That's what caught my attention and interest. And I was really, it just fascinates me how you how you articulate and the diagram
Well,
about human relationships.
thank
And then
you.
extend it to materials.
I think that, and that's the part where I mean, all of the individual pieces are they're very much about like individual relations that I have.
Yeah.
And I am trying now to kind of figure out how to have that dialogue and conversation.
Yeah.
Like there's a reason why that large steel wood piece is 5 feet 11 inches.
Oh.
There's a like, and so to me, I think I'm just now becoming a little bit more comfortable with engaging with that narrative. And that's going to come a little, some of the rockers have names associated with them. And, that's kind of building in itself, but I don't know quite, for a long time, like this is my language and it is my, cathartic relationship to figuring out my own stuff in my studio. And so trying to kind of like, I use, the fine craft as a guard for me, for sure. The fine craft is kind of a way to protect, it's kind of a wall, I'd say. And so I'm trying to figure out how to open up and have some more discussions about the dissolution of joints, the breakdown of relationships and stuff like that. So I don't really know where I'm going, but I feel like that's kind of where the future of the work is headed.
Yeah.
I want to hear more. I mean.
I'm not ready yet, but yeah.
Okay, I can wait.
That's what I'm trying to do. The writing and the articulation is really it's a challenge.
Yeah.
To figure out how much to open up and how much to not. So
Well, it's very clear. Your presentation came across very clear and very convincing. So I think you're doing a good job
good.
articulating.
Thank you.
I think the pairing of you two together is a phenomenal example of how two artists are working with similar themes of connection and belonging and
that's why I said it was magic that I'm here with Joon.
I know. And
Yeah.
the way you're telling those stories is very different from each other,
Yeah.
but you have that
But
inspiration.
And I think it's like very much like our foundational language. Like it's kind of how like to me, like my foundational language is craft and joinery. And so, and it, in some ways, like Joon is using like it's like it's a very personal language that you brought together. So yeah, I do. There is someone who asked, Liz asked about, the textile garage sale next weekend or this weekend. And yes, I already have my tickets for noon on Saturday to go. I don't know if Liz is still on here, but I found out about it and I am going for sure. So yes, was there any other questions?
Well, the other thing that came to me, starting with your presentation, is long ago I heard that Toronto was a city of multiple cultures, but not a melting pot, which is the United States version where everyone's supposed to more or less lose their
Morph into something,
lose their culture and kind of blend in with everyone. Whereas in Toronto, they celebrated the original cultures and kept them alive much better than the United States did. And both of you spoke about that too, about keeping the identity of the material, you know, with your materials and not like blending them and so they're unrecognizable with each other, but you know, contrasting in order to show.
And I think that's a really important, like interdependence doesn't necessarily mean that you're getting rid of individual identity.
Right.
So there's to me, there's a difference between like interdependence and a codependence. And there might, to me, like I'm not making a value on all of them, but I know that for me, like I find more strength in the interdependence, the material, and the ability to separate if needed, or at least people to clearly identify. So at one point I was kind of exploring the idea of like, well, do I need to make clay wood? Like that was a kind kind of those thoughts, and like to me, I come back to like no. The material, you notice that I don't have a lot of glaze. I'll put Sidge on or milk paint for color if that's needed, but like right now there's 4 different clays in my studio that I'm using. And so I'll be using a lot of different clays, and I appreciate being able just to see the pure materiality of the clay, the variation of color. So it's kind of just one of my approaches, like that one conceptually.
Just speaking to me, what you presented, something speaks to me about the call to identify and relate and care for the earth.
Yeah, I'd say so. Materials can be very critical to me, and then work. Yeah, sure. Is there any other questions from the slide? Zoom.
Zoom universe. The speaker's on too, so you're
The
welcome.
speaker's on. If anyone is still there, would like to ask away.
I was also.
Hi, it's Jade. Can you hear me? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
I was just curious if you could talk a little bit about like your collection of materials in terms of like your natural materials and your process with how you choose those, or even just like I know you use steel in some as well.
I think for me, the materiality has been clay is one thing, but separate from that, it's been very much about access initially, and then like what's needed to achieve. So initially, especially with like implement, that was like I did most of the clay work. Linda did most of the small metal work because that's what we had in our studios. But then through kind of like exploration, like now there's a space that we have opened up like a lot of found material. There's a really amazing secondhand art store where I live, and I found a ton of round basket reed, and that's what kind of drove first me finding like round basket reed and working with that. So I think there's been initially it kind of came about through the necessity of what I needed, and now there's more consideration in kind of the formalness of what I understand so much more about wood now. Like, so I want to pair walnut because it's a darker wood with porcelain because it's a lighter clay body, or vice versa. So I start to make more formal decisions now that I would say I'm a little bit more educated about these other materials. But at first it was literally just like what was around me and what were the scraps and what I could find.
I was going to comment on your rockers that I think there's a lot in your work about balance, like literally balance in the rockers, but then the balance of your materials together and how you spatially, create forms that work well together. It's a lot about balance.
I would agree with that. I think that's a lot of what Sean was saying before, where like if you're like if someone's talking about wood and clay or metal and clay, like there's this immediate like they shouldn't go together. But I think that comes from a very strong like formalist and craft background, and starting from a place of kind of craft school and trying to create balance. And I think that's kind of like ultimately coming back to the idea of a relationship. It's like as much as you can find balance, as I think we kind of all are seeking that in the binary. Yeah. So it's definitely something that I'm seeking in my work. And at this point, it's difficult for me to just have a piece of pottery or just clay. It's difficult for me to make something without an additional material. It doesn't feel like it has that balance that we talk about. Yeah.
Is that a balance between the earth and humans through your work? Because you're using raw materials of the earth.
Yeah. I don't have an answer for you right now about that, but I think it's like something good to consider. Maybe we always have things that are in the back of our minds and that are in the subconscious that I
Right.
think we don't always identify immediately. And kind of when we started this conversation, I feel like I'm just now able to talk about some work from 10 years ago.
Yeah,
Clearly.
right.
Like
But it feels
So.
to me like maybe that's.
grounding. Yeah, maybe.
And you're thinking about talking about absence as well too, like going forward, so that, you know, it's
Yeah,
that recognizable shape with the dovetail.
absence and or alteration of the joint. What happens when the joint starts to, like when one material starts to maybe alter that perfect fit.
And
I don't.
shrinkage, you had shrinkage cracks in some of your pieces of wood, even though the.
Yeah, so
cracks happen
they
long
and that happens
term.
over time too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I don't know how that's gonna manifest really, but
Yeah, it's intriguing though.
it's a definitely intriguing and exciting
Yeah.
point to be. And I'd say I'm in it for the long game. This is something that's gonna evolve over. To me, it's always the next piece is a response to the piece before, rather than working in series.
Yeah.
So they tend to be a linear progression versus a series collection. So.
Like maybe how wood shrinks and how clay shrinks if you made something when they're both green and wet. And then you watch what happens.
Oh, I've done.
You've done it?
Yeah, I'll show you the pictures tomorrow. Yeah, I definitely have it's that in itself. There's so much connection to me behind, like, I definitely think as a my thoughts are within a ceramicist, but like when I'm weaving random weave, like that's coil building.
Oh,
When you're in wet work versus like what greenwood versus kiln dry, like there's so many overlaps and comparisons that the best way I can say it is like I still, even if I'm in a totally other material, I'm thinking in terms of clay. But yeah, there's definitely like for me, basket weaving is coil building. I'm just doing it with not clay. But you get the basket, it's wet, it moves, it stiffens when it dries up. Like there's this flexibility to the greenware stage versus the like bone dry stage where it becomes like rigid. There's so many overlaps.
well, I did some woodwork, public art. And to me, the striking difference is that wood you take away and you never get it back again. Whatever move you make into a piece of wood, if you're eliminating something, you can't change your mind and put it back again. Whereas with clay, you have that ability
Yeah.
to.
I
Yeah.
work in a reductive style of making.
Oh, in
So
clay?
the way that I work is through a reductive, using rasps and carving away. So I'm very akin to wood turners and bowl carvers
Okay.
versus
So you don't put it
traditional.
back.
No, it all kind of comes away.
Okay.
Yeah. So interesting.
So
Well, thank you guys
Yeah.
so much for sharing. Would you advise, oh, wait, sorry, there's one other person.
Yeah, absolutely.
How would you advise someone to start collaboration within or outside mixed medias and project based? So, for me, I think that going back to the initial ideas of how to start with collaboration, like there's some really basic things like the setup or the mashup, which is so setup or mashup where you're kind of setting up a clear project and then being able to work off of either a project or a commission to help understand how you work with an individual. I believe that you have to kind of start with the starting points and develop a trust to be able to move into the transformative and holistic approach. The best thing too is you have, as an individual artist, you have to be in the right vulnerable state to be able to trust, communicate clearly, and allow for play. But I do think when you start off a collaboration, having clear guidelines about what expectations are for each other, including the conversation about authorship, is very, very important when you start, and what the intention is of the outcome as a structure, not necessarily like the actual physical piece manifested. But to me, really to get to sort of that like transformative collaboration state, you have to have a lot of conversation and be able to communicate clearly. And to have just like total vulnerability of trust. So that's where kind of, I think that differentiation between like what cooperation is and collaboration, I would encourage people to kind of start from the mindset of like, we're going to cooperate, and then building strong relationship there can really transcend to the collaboration. And it's very hard to, I mean, at a certain point too, like you can't kind of, it can't necessarily be manufactured. There are some things that just have to simply line up for a successful collaboration to work. So thank you for the question, Katie.
Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank
Joon,
you.
Ellen, thank you both so much. We really appreciate it. It has been very fortuitous to have you both here at the same time. This has been really phenomenal. And thanks everybody who was online with us, everyone who decided to brave the rain in person. We truly appreciate all of your time. Thank you one last time to the McKnight Foundation for their generous support. If anyone has any questions, Joon and Ellen are also in our studio program. They are here working. You're always free to drop by as well. Thank you all again.